aura and charging toward our hero, this time vowing to tear him apart. However, before he can cover much distance, he is intercepted by Haman, who remarks that their numbers are finally even. The two exchange heated words, but their argument is abruptly cut short as our hero unleashes his Thousand Winds spell, blasting both the werewolf and the old geezer away. Without wasting a moment, Siwoo dashes toward the old man, seizing him by the neck with an iron grip and demanding to know if he truly understands what death feels like. Tightening his grip around the old geezer's throat, Siwoo demands to know how many times he must drag him to the brink of death before getting an answer. Watching from the side, Haman finds it absurd that our hero keeps pushing these buffoons to the verge of death, only to heal them afterward. The thought crosses his mind that if he were in their position, he would rather die than endure such a fate. He even wonders how it's possible for someone to wield a healing spell so powerful. Siwoo repeats his question, and this time, the wolf pleads with the old man to give in and just answer. Finally giving in to the pressure, the old geezer speaks, revealing that they work for Bestia. As he takes a closer look at our hero, realization dawns on him. Siwoo is none other than one of the three legendary figures who vanished long ago, the infamous mad dog, Min Siwoo. Siwoo casually sits down, remarking that since they finally decided to use their mouths, he'll need more information. Pulling out an image of the serpent-eyed, fang-toothed man responsible for Minjun's death, he demands to know the identity of the killer. As the scene shifts, glimpses of the assassination organization known as Bestia come into view. It was an elite group specializing in hunting down targets, operating under the command of a figure known as Crow. Over time, the organization expanded, growing in power and securing a significant influence in this world. The old geezer, having been among the first generation of hunters, once received an invitation from them and saw no reason to hesitate before quickly accepting their offer. For those recruited by the organization, secrecy was the highest priority. Even back then, when the old geezer was already aging, he was required to take the oath of silence. By signing it, he surrendered control over his own life and death to the assassination organization. As the scene shifts back, the old man reflects on his 15 years with Bestia, recalling how he had always believed he would never betray them. If the situation ever demanded it, he had resolved to bite off his tongue and die rather than break his oath. But after experiencing the agony of death over and over again, his resolve finally shattered, forcing him to finally give in and speak. The old man finally reveals that the person in question is also a member of his organization. Known by the nickname Black Mamba, our hero finds the name rather unpleasant, but quickly moves on to his main question. He asks both of them whether they have ever been involved in the assassination of a hunter named Young Minjun. When neither of them responds, an unsettling force washes over them, gripping them with an overwhelming sensation, as if their very skin is about to be peeled off. Baldy quickly speaks up, insisting that they have no knowledge of the matter. He explains that Bestia's operations are mostly independent, with members rarely needing to coordinate with one another. Before Siwoo can press further, he voluntarily continues, revealing that members typically remain unaware of each other's abilities or locations. However, due to the organization's biannual meeting, they were specifically assigned to retrieve the wolf from prison. He further discloses that the meeting is scheduled to take place in a week, and that their orders were to bring the wolf there. Realizing that their chapter has come to an end, the old geezer bows before Siwoo, pledging to share all the information he knows, including how to infiltrate the meeting. With desperation, he humbly requests that our hero accept them as his subordinates. Chu Haman flares up, calling the offer absurd. Turning to Siwoo, he addresses him as his brother, and asks if he would really fall for such a trick. Resting his head on his hand, our hero calmly questions when exactly Haman became his brother. Haman argues that since Siwoo can use Asura, he is at the very least his senior, perhaps even his mentor's mentor. Dropping the subject of the buffoons entirely, he earnestly requests that Siwoo take him as his disciple instead. Siwoo abruptly cuts Haman off, telling him to keep his mouth shut for a moment. He takes a pause to assess the situation. His only real objective is to gather information on the snake-eyed man, Black Mamba. He realizes that if he lets these two go, their own organization will likely eliminate them. And worse, news about him will reach Bestia, making things far more complicated. Weighing the pros and cons, he ultimately decides to take them both as his subordinates. This decision leaves Haman utterly shocked, while the old geezer, overjoyed, expresses his gratitude. However, before he can shower Siwoo with praise, they are immediately met with a condition. Siwoo lays down his condition, making it clear that to ensure their loyalty, they must take the ultimate oath called the Mana Oath. The weight of this demand quickly sinks in, prompting a complaint from the wolf. However, before he can protest further, the old geezer cuts him off, advising him to comply unless he wishes to experience death a dozen more times. With fear settling in, the two reluctantly gather their mana at their cores. Following our hero's command, they state their names. The old geezer introduces himself as Red Ghost, while the wolf identifies himself as Sherry Volk. As the two complete the contract with our hero, he assures them that as long as they remain loyal, they will be rewarded with protection, and their lives will be safeguarded. Watching Siwoo accept the criminals, Haman flails on the ground like a child, complaining that he was left out while they were taken in. Pouting, he threatens that if he is not made Siwoo's disciple, he will report everything to the association. Siwoo fixes him with a bloody stare before casually telling him he was just teasing. With that, he makes the scroll used for the oath disappear and finally grants Haman's request, accepting him as his disciple. Letting out a sigh of relief, he considers that having extra hands will be useful. This group should be enough to create the kind of scene he has in mind, though he realizes he might need one more person, someone he intends to use to clean up the mess that will follow. Back at the Hunters police station, a fat, chubby officer is seen scolding the team leader of HMCS, Jong-gu, demanding an explanation for how Sherry Volk managed to escape. He stresses how dangerous the man is, and goes on to argue that all the hype surrounding HMCS seems nothing more than a myth. Siwoo, lounging on a sofa, casually responds that Sherry was so fast he could not keep up. Jong-gu, clearly disgusted, glares at him and demands that he at least put some effort into his excuse and take the matter seriously. The chubby officer continues his rant, demanding to know why the new transport officer has yet to arrive, and calling the entire operation a mess. Having heard enough, Jong-gu finally speaks up, explaining that a standard prisoner transport team consists of 4 to 5 officers, while moving a high-threat inmate requires up to 10. Admitting his own fault, he acknowledges that he specifically requested for just one officer to handle the transport. The chubby warden shoots up from his seat in anger, insisting that none of that matters since the prisoner still managed to escape. Jong-gu, waving him off, points out that the new transport officer was actually able to make the escapee confess. He reveals that they learned Sherry Volk had been receiving help from high-ranking officers at the prison in exchange for bribes. Refusing to believe the story, the fat warden dismisses it as an obvious lie. Jong-gu, remaining calm, acknowledges that the warden's skepticism is understandable, but insists that the matter is serious enough to warrant an immediate investigation. Speaking on behalf of HMCS, Jong-gu states that they plan to conduct a thorough investigation into Incheon prison and the escapee. He then requests the warden's cooperation in the matter. As the scene shifts, Jong-gu informs Siwoo that he has initiated the investigation and handled the other matters as requested. Present at the discussion are Hunter Chu Haman and the 2 buffoons, who are now Siwoo's disciples. Laying out his plan on the table, Siwoo tells the group that the time has come to begin their operation, an infiltration of Bestia's meeting. He reveals that around 8 top-ranked awakened killers will be attending. He then instructs Haman and Jong-gu to pay close attention as the 2 defectors provide the remaining details. Jong-gu, troubled by the plan, questions how they intend to infiltrate an entire assassination group with such a small team. He asks what their ultimate goal is in pulling off such a dangerous task. Giving him a smirk, Siwoo states that the goal is quite obvious, which is to exterminate every single one of them. At the next Bestia gathering, the leader mockingly jokes about the 2 who vanished. The group argues, claiming they knew the old man and Sherry Volk were cowards, but never saw their betrayal coming. Hedgehog, the goth girl, furiously swears to kill Volk for breaking her promise to go on a date. Scarmouth demands silence, stating only the boss punishes traitors. But the boss chuckles, amused by how fast 3 members disappeared. His presence instantly quiets the room before he announces a deathmatch, with the winner earning the right to execute the traitors. A heavy silence follows. Black Mamba bluntly tells the boss his jokes aren't amusing. He points out that killing the traitors is easy. The real issue is that their meeting place has been leaked. One member laughs at the idea that anyone would dare attack them, but the alarms blare before the words even settle. The group is stunned, yet the leader seems to enjoy the chaos. It turns out a single intruder is pushing through each of the 5 entrances. 5 members head off to intercept, while one throws a remark at Hedgehog and Black Mamba, wondering why they're still hanging around with the boss. Black Mamba mocks the intruders, dismissing them as trash, while Hedgehog remains lost in her comics. The 3 continue their casual exchange, completely unaware that our boy Jong-gu is creeping through the vents, his every movement laced with unease. Frustration bubbles inside him as he silently laments drawing the most dangerous job of the bunch. Shifting time half an hour earlier, the squad gathers outside the meeting spot, listening as the old man lays out the situation. The 5 entrances never stay the same, constantly shifting like a puzzle. One of them will make it inside first, but in the end, they'll all find their way to the target. Our hero decides they should each take an entrance, cutting off any escape route for the Bestia members. Without hesitation, he instructs Jong-gu to hand out the radios, making it clear that if anyone struggles against their opponent, especially Black Mamba, they should stall and call for backup. Once inside, Jong-gu finds himself at a dead end. His eyes land on a vent overhead, and without a second thought, he jumps straight into it, slipping past every layer of security laid by the organization. But before he knows it, he lands right in the chamber of killers. With 5 members already gone, there's no time to reach out for reinforcements. Determined to cut down their numbers, he pulls a handful of marbles from his pocket and casually lets one drop. The leader scoffs, turning to Hedgehog with a smirk, joking that she must have lost it from their slot machine. As she picks it up, the goth girl playfully comments that she just hit the jackpot. And she's right. The marble erupts like dynamite, sending shockwaves through the room. The leader, unfazed, simply chuckles at her demise. Black Mamba shoots up from his seat, instantly spotting the incoming grenade. With precision, he effortlessly flicks it straight toward the vent, sending it right back. Now that there's no point in hiding, Junggu springs from his hiding spot, making a grand entrance. Dripping with sweat, he curses himself being able to take down only one, still shocked at how Black Mamba casually slapped away the grenade like it was nothing. No special technique, just physical prowess. Snake Guy facepalms, fed up with the traitors who sold them out to HMCS. When Junggu confirms it, he can't help but shake his head, almost feeling sorry for the fools who betrayed Bestia for such a pathetic deal. Wasting no time, Junggu conjures a dazzling burst of light, momentarily blinding his opponent as he hurls daggers concealed within the flash. Across the room, the leader sips her tea, enjoying it like a children's fight. Black Mamba, on the other hand, laughs, already familiar with Junggu's tricks. But what leaves Junggu stunned is the sight of the Snake Man's body knitting itself back together, raw mana fueling his insane regeneration like it's nothing. Calling playtime over, the snake charges, smashing our boy into the wall with one brutal strike. Mamba sighs, annoyed he hit the vitals too soon, and asks the boss if he can finish the job with a mess. But our boy acts fast, whipping out his radio and reporting before words are cut off by a boot to the chest. Stomping on his chest, the Snake Guy asks if the backup is the HMCS, Traitors, or Wolf Boy. But before Junggu can respond, the answer crashes in from behind. The trio storms the meeting hall all at once, catching everyone off guard as the real fight begins. Without even glancing back, Mamba effortlessly dodges the trio's attack, leaving nothing but a crater where he once stood. Snake Guy eyes the intruders, muttering how disappointed the boss must be, seeing her chosen ones turn out so weak. But something doesn't sit right with him. He notices the trio looks almost untouched, their movements too smooth for people who supposedly fought against Tiger and Grizzly. Their slow attacks are easily avoided, raising doubts in his mind. Haman steps up to meet Mamba in close combat, but before he can land a hit, Mamba snatches him up in a deadly grip. Tossing him away, he grins while asking what a white lion hunter is doing with the HMCS. Watching the trio struggle, Snake Man grows even more suspicious. There's no way a patched-together team formed just a day ago could have wounded Bestia so easily. His eyes narrow as he wonders who's really pulling the strings. Frustrated, Haman barks at Junggu to get up, reminding him they rushed in the second they could. He explains that Siwoo suddenly appeared during their fights and ordered them straight to the hall. With no other choice, the trio keeps stalling, buying time until our hero arrives to finish the job. Folk grits his teeth, confused about how they're supposed to capture a monster like Black Mamba alive. The old man notes that the hall is rigged, pointing out that despite Mamba's incredible speed, teleportation isn't one of his tricks. His unease grows as he watches the leader silently observing the battle. The real danger lies with Crow. Once the leader makes a move, anything could happen. With that in mind, the old man instructs them to focus on capturing Mamba while he keeps an eye on the leader. Meanwhile, Snake Guy grows irritated, dodging Hammond and Wolf Boy's relentless attacks. His frustration spikes as everyone keeps ignoring his question. Baldy's voice suddenly booms through the hall, declaring that no one is leaving until our hero arrives. Red chains of mana shoot up from the ground, latching onto Haman and even Bestia's leader Crow. The boss chuckles, calling the old man's efforts a waste of time. But the old man remains unfazed, fully confident in his binding spell. A dangerous aura radiates from Crow as he questions just how powerful their mastermind must be to betray him so boldly. Without hesitation, he calls for Hedgehog. From the shadows, she strikes with her spiky hair, diving straight at the old man. Volk and Junggu race to defend him, stunned that she's still alive. Growing tired of the delay, Mamba shatters the binding skill and activates his skill, saying they are going to be quite busy cleaning up the mess. Mamba's scales turn white, mutating into a white-scaled lizard man as he promises to end their lives quickly. Junggu and Haman, knowing no attack will pierce the thick scales, prepare to run for their lives. Junggu ponders Mamba's transformation. Though it appears similar to Wolf Boy's, the mana is denser than diamond. With the rigged meeting hall, only he can hold out against the recipe for disaster. He judges it impossible to aid Volk and the old man against Hedgehog. Helping in the only way the weak guy can, he throws a dagger into Mamba's arm. Before the lizardman can take it out, it grows green, indicating a corrosion skill. Junggu continues his barrage of daggers before being blown away. Haman warns him of the flying boulder headed his way, but Mamba quickly reminds him not to look away in a fight. The monster teleports behind Junggu, warning that innocent hunters have gravely misunderstood the situation. With a firm chokehold, the lizardman points out that skill ranks and mana numbers mean nothing in a dirty fight. He declares it a mistake to challenge them on their turf. Meanwhile, our hedgehog is busy exacting revenge on the lying Volk. The meeting hall is equipped with various self-destructing and buffing mechanisms for the Bestia members. It's no wonder they call it the Snake's Den. Anyone who enters is never leaving alive. Mamba tells Junggu to give up his frivolous effort, nearly knocking our boy out, when he suddenly senses an ominous aura. Crow immediately leaps backward as our hero flies by his buddy Junggu and slams the ugly lizard into the den's wall. Our Demon Lord Slayer grins like a demon, having finally found Minjun's killer. Meanwhile, Hedgehog has already taken down the wolf guy and now shifts her attention to Siwoo, curiosity sparking as she seeks to uncover his identity. However, Before she can take any action, a magic circle suddenly activates, striking her down in an instant. Observing the unexpected turn of events, Crow, the leader of the group, finds herself intrigued, wondering how Siwoo managed to dismantle and repurpose every magic circle embedded within the space. Unseen and unheard by anyone but Siwoo, Predator Frey takes the opportunity to boast, claiming that such a feat was only achievable due to his power. Crow observes the scene with amusement, remarking on how effortlessly Siwoo has reduced a billion-costing facility to nothing more than scrap. Meanwhile, Black Mamba recovers from his injury and swiftly casts a spell, only for Siwoo to evade it by leaping backward. Recognizing the situation, Black Mamba begins to piece things together, questioning whether Siwoo is the one responsible for eliminating the old geezer and the wolf guy, as well as orchestrating the entire operation. Siwoo still holds on to the anger that surged through him upon learning of his subordinate's death, directing his accusation at Black Mamba as the true culprit. From a distance, Crow, observing the situation, questions what Mamba could have done to provoke such fury. Black Mamba, unfazed, claims that he merely follows the orders and requests assigned to him, insisting that he bears no guilt beyond that. He continues, voicing his curiosity, attempting to confirm his suspicion by asking whether Siwoo has come seeking revenge. Puzzled, he wonders how Siwoo managed to uncover his identity, considering he never leaves behind any trace. Siwoo forms a thunder circle in his hand, making it clear that he intends to take his revenge, though there is something he needs to uncover first. Meanwhile, Crow finds herself backed into a corner by the others. Raising her hands, she directs her curiosity toward her former crew members, questioning what could have possibly happened to turn them into Siwoo's obedient followers so suddenly. As this unfolds, the thunder circle Siwoo has been casting finally reaches completion, revealing that he has successfully reversed buff-enhancing magic into traps instead. Black Mamba, struggling against the suppressing trap, tries to piece together Siwoo's abilities, wondering whether he is a tracking-type magic user or a melee hunter. Yet, none of the possibilities he considers seem to fully align with what he has witnessed. Before he can dwell on it further, Siwoo unleashes another skill, slamming him against the wall once more, and forcing him to revert to his hunter form. Bleeding from his mouth, Black Mamba swears that he has never seen Siwoo before. Despite taking pride in knowing everything about high-ranking hunters, he finds himself at a complete loss regarding his opponent's identity. Without wasting any time, he casts another magic circle and demands to know what business Siwoo has with him. Before Black Mamba can finish his enchantment, Siwoo appears above him in an instant, driving him to the ground with his foot, making it clear that he is the one who will be asking the questions, not the other way around. He presses down harder, forcing his dominance over the situation. Without giving him a chance to recover, Siwoo slams him down again, issuing a sharp warning that a single wrong move will cost him his life, leaving no room for defiance. Black Mamba, now completely overpowered, visibly gives up and pleads for Siwoo to stop, his will to resist breaking. Seeing that Black Mamba is finally willing to talk, Siwoo wastes no time and demands to know who ordered the assassination of Young Min-jun. As sweat drips down his face, Black Mamba's mind races, questioning how Siwoo even learned about the murder, and whether he has some connection to the victim. Instead of answering, he resorts to a cheap trick, pretending to comply just long enough to lower Siwoo's guard. Seizing the moment, he suddenly spits a venomous poison from his mouth, aiming to catch his opponent off guard. Believing he has taken down Siwoo, Black Mamba boasts that a true assassin never reveals his client. However, his confidence shatters the moment Siwoo instantly recovers, healing himself without effort. Panic overtakes him as he struggles to understand if Siwoo is actually a healer. Desperate, he turns to Crow for help, only to find her completely surrounded by Siwoo's disciples, leaving him with no way out. With no other options, Black Mamba finally gives in, beginning to reveal the client's name, Pande. But before he can finish, Crow swiftly eliminates him. Watching this unfold, Siwoo contemplates whether the name he was about to say was Pandemonium. Hearing this, Crow finally acknowledges that she has realized Siwoo's true identity, none other than the legendary first-generation hunter, Mad Dog, who mysteriously disappeared a decade ago. Siwoo, now turning his attention to Crow, questions whether she is also affiliated with Pandemonium. However, she firmly denies the accusation, asserting that her organization operates strictly as an assassin's guild and does not engage in personal requests. Siwoo fixes Crow with a death glare, making it clear that speaking the truth is the only option if she knows what's best for her. Crow, maintaining her stance, swears that she has no reason to lie, pointing out that Siwoo already has information on her. With a snap of her fingers, she signals Hedgehog to get up and assist in their escape. In an instant, the two vanish into the sky, preparing to flee. Before leaving, Crow questions whether Siwoo intends to pursue her, but he dismisses the idea, stating that he has already obtained the lead he was after, leaving him with no further reason to chase them. As the portal materializes, Crow bids farewell to Siwoo, hinting that their paths may cross again soon before vanishing into thin air. Jonggu, frustrated, complains to Siwoo about letting them escape, only to be met with a calm explanation. Siwoo informs him that had he pursued them, Crow would have activated the floor's self-destruction sequence, something they were in no condition to evade. He then instructs Junggu to handle the cleanup, stating that they have achieved enough for the day. As the scene shifts, Siwoo is in his room, searching for more information on Pandemonium. His mind drifts back 20 years to the moment when the first gate appeared, unleashing all manner of things upon the world. Mana surged into existence, magic stones surfaced, and countless rare resources were discovered. Demons too emerged through the gate, initially blending into society unnoticed. However, they did not stop there. Not only did they seize control over the gates, but they also regarded humans as an inferior species. Before long, they successfully established their headquarters, constructing the Demon King's castle at the heart of the continent, securing their grip over all the resources pouring from the gates. Amidst this chaos, a faction of humans emerged, swearing loyalty to the Demon King. They became known as Pandemonium, serving as the bridge between demons and humans. However, fortune favored humanity as the first-generation hunters rose to oppose them. These hunters swiftly mastered mana manipulation, standing as the last line of defense against Pandemonium's growing influence. What followed was the Great War between humans and demons, a brutal conflict that shook the world. In the end, humanity triumphed, pushing the demons back. Siwoo recalls that it has now been 10 years since he single-handedly defeated the 4 demon lords, only to be cast into a dimensional rift, ultimately finding himself trapped in the demon world. He questions why the name Pandemonium is resurfacing after all this time, especially since the group was dismantled long before the war even began. His thoughts turn to his predator, seeking answers about why the demons in the other world seemed so different. Frey acknowledges the difference and shares his own analysis, revealing that numerous races exist across the dimensions. He notes that the demons in the other world were particularly ruthless, having gone so far as to exploit the dragon species, forcing them into servitude. Frey continues, arguing that no matter where demons go, they behave like gangsters. Before becoming a part of our hero, he had no memories, only a lingering sense that something had been stolen from him by the demons. Having spent over 100 years at Siwoo's side, analyzing demons, he is now certain that they were the ones who tampered with his memory. Siwoo places a hand on his head, reflecting that instead of solely focusing on killing them, he should have paid more attention to uncovering their true nature. Siwoo notices that the mana patterns of demons differ from those of humans, and compared to 10 years ago, they have become far more adept at blending in. Frey suggests that simply eliminating them would solve everything, but Siwoo admits that he wishes it were that simple. Just then, his younger brother enters, questioning why he suddenly asked him to rent an office, suspecting that he might have gotten himself into trouble. Siwoo, remaining casual, responds that it's nothing major. He's just trying to track down Minjun's traces. Sejun points out that from what he has gathered, Siwoo recently wiped out an entire assassination organization, and questions whether his request for an office was meant for planning that mission. Taking a seat on the sofa, Sejun scolds him, reminding him that he has repeatedly urged him to keep a low profile, warning that it wouldn't be ideal if the president found out. Siwoo, letting out a sigh, reassures his brother not to worry, explaining that Junggu has already erased all records of his involvement. Siwoo also mentions that he is planning to visit President Choi Dae-soo soon. However, his brother finds this decision unwise. Frustrated by Siwoo's actions, Guildmaster Sejun argues that he has yet to regain his full mana strength. While he won't force him to stop, he insists that he shouldn't rush into things. He expresses concern that Siwoo might end up in trouble again, reminding him that the world has changed significantly over the past 10 years. Siwoo appears before his brother, scratching his head like a monkey, telling him not to overwork his little brain. Sejun lets it go, reminding Siwoo to keep his promise and stay safe, as he can't afford to lose him again. Changing the subject, he asks if Siwoo remembers Hunter Shin Jisoo, mentioning that her awakening skill turned out to be quite impressive. He suggests that his brother should look into her. Siwoo, however, shifts the topic, saying that he's hungry and inviting Sejun to join him for dinner. Frey chimes in as well, complaining that he's starving since Siwoo's mana isn't enough to satisfy him. In response, Siwoo mockingly blames his predator for his own hunger. As Sejun leaves, he calls Junggu, complaining about why he revealed everything to his brother. However, the big guy scolds him instead, reminding him of the chaos it caused trying to cover up his actions in front of HMCS. Every media outlet and agency is swarming the organization with interviews after the takedown of the assassins. He further informs Siwoo that, thanks to keeping his name out of it, the branch manager is now closely monitoring them. Siwoo argues that it's a good thing since it means he's getting results, but Junggu, clearly frustrated, complains that the real issue is figuring out how to justify the fact that he single-handedly took down such high-ranked A-plus hunters. Our hero counters that Junggu should have involved the White Lion Guild since Haman was present, but Junggu still insists that Siwoo stepping forward would help ease the burden on them. Siwoo then hangs up, dismissing the matter by saying his meal is waiting. Heading to the kitchen, he settles onto the sofa, murmuring to himself about how much he enjoys his job. Turning his head back, he casually asks his brother if there's any recent news regarding the demons. Sejun explains that ever since Siwoo eliminated the 4 demon lords, the demons had no choice but to propose a peace treaty and establish an institute in the polar continent to study the mana that emerged on Earth. He adds that some nations have even begun collaborating with them on this research, and it has become rare to see demons outside the polar continent. Over time, people have largely dismissed the chaos they once caused, reducing it to nothing more than an urban legend. Frey finds it rather absurd and questions when demons ever became peace-loving beings. Siwoo then shifts the conversation to Crow, mentioning that while her mana pattern closely resembled that of a demon, there was something off about it. This leads him to suspect that she might be a demon-human hybrid. Given that demons first appeared on Earth 20 years ago, he is convinced that such a possibility exists. What initially began as a mission to avenge Minjun's death has now transformed into something far more complex, leaving him with the feeling that this pursuit might continue for a long time. Back at Siwoo's place, he begins training his two new subordinates to control their mana by helping them discover their mana core. Confused, Hamin questions how this could be useful when skills only awaken in high adrenaline battles. Annoyed, Siwoo smacks Wolfboy, reminding him that they were the ones who asked for training in the first place. He sighs at their naive belief that simply blasting out mana like a gym workout is the best way to use it. The simple-minded Volk, on the other hand, argues that there's no need for control if they can just take down their enemies in a single hit. Siwoo points out that the easy tutorial tower has spoiled them, making them overly reliant on brute force. He explains that sensing one's mana core requires precise control, something his new disciples clearly lack. Using an analogy, he describes how every person has an internal space where mana gathers, often referred to as the dantian or core. Each individual awakens with a unique trait, releasing mana in a way that manifests as skills. The more refined their control over the power flowing from their core, the stronger their abilities become. That's why training is essential, not just to expand their mana reserves, but also to enhance the effectiveness of their skills. Siwoo, acting like an old man, mocks the three for only using their power for around 20 years. He tells them to stop complaining and just follow his instructions if they truly want to get stronger. As if that isn't enough, he warns them about the grueling training the Bestia traders will undergo until they've properly atoned for their crimes. Suddenly, a visibly distressed Junggu arrives, demanding to know why Siwoo didn't answer his phone. The Mad Dog casually responds that he doesn't pick up calls 24/7. Ignoring the remark, Junggu stresses that he needs to meet the branch director at HQ immediately. At the HMCS office, Siwoo eyes Junggu suspiciously, asking if he snitched on him to his superiors. Junggu adamantly denies it, but before he can say more, they're approached by two of his sassy colleagues. The Gangnam team leader and his lackey start teasing Junggu about his sudden rise to fame. Seeing Changwon back from his vacation, Junggu clicks his tongue and tells him to quit slacking off and actually do his job instead of bothering his coworkers. Ignoring the bickering, the Gangnam team leader turns his attention to Siwoo, but our hero couldn't be less interested. Instead, he casually picks his ear, completely unfazed. Junggu steps in, sighing that jet lag must be making the Gangnam turd spout nonsense. Changwon's aide fires back with a nerdy comeback, and Changwon starts rambling about how everyone is just jealous that his team is making waves internationally, while the Gangbuk team is stuck dealing with petty thugs. Siwoo, busy scrolling through his phone, barely acknowledges the conversation, until the nerd pointedly reminds him to show some respect and introduce himself to his seniors. Without missing a beat, our hero flips him off and tells him to clear the precious space his leader is hogging with those fake, roided-up muscles. To top it off, he glances at the aide's glasses and smirks, asking if Four Eyes is blind even with his edgy frames. The nerd twitches in anger and immediately requests permission to discipline the newbie. But Junggu, ever the voice of reason, sighs and asks if Four Eyes has any emotional intelligence at all. Changwon, not one to let things slide, scoffs and asks if Junggu is deaf since he clearly didn't hear Siwoo trash-talking his seniors. Loyal as ever, Junggu blatantly denies it, while our hero grins and quips that maybe the orc has too much fat clogging his ears. That's the last straw. With his rage overflowing, Changwon cracks his knuckles and declares in front of the entire office that it's time to teach these punks a lesson and show everyone who's really in charge. Just then, the boss shows up. Branch Director Jianho materializes out of nowhere, jump-scaring the living daylights out of the Gangnam team. Completely ignoring them, he turns to our duo with a warm smile, greeting them and apologizing for the delay caused by the dimwits. Without wasting time, Jianho personally escorts his esteemed guests away, even going as far as asking what kind of tea they prefer. Fuming, Changwon tries to complain, but before he can even get a word out, the boss cuts him off with a casual reminder of his utter failure in the Japan mission. That shuts the Gangnam turds up instantly. Burning with jealousy, the two are left speechless, their minds racing as they try to figure out just what kind of insane connections this rookie must have. Inside the director's office, Junggu remains on edge while Siwoo, unfazed, gets straight to the point about the reason behind his summons. Amused by his blunt approach, the director responds with a laugh, shifting the conversation toward the Incheon prison escort. He points out that, following the success of the Bestia raid, responsibility for the escort case has now fallen under their branch's jurisdiction. With a broad smile, he wastes no time in addressing the real matter at hand, directly questioning what exactly transpired with the escaped prisoner. His skepticism is evident, making it clear that he finds it hard to believe someone capable of taking down the infamous Gert would genuinely lose to a mere wolf boy. Observing Siwoo's reluctance to provide an answer, he promptly instructs Junggu to step out, ensuring their discussion remains private. The director reiterates that he considers himself a reasonable man. While Junggu has an impressive track record, the reality remains that he lacks the capability to single-handedly raid and dismantle an assassin's guild like Bestia. Drawing from his experience, he pieces together that the escaped prisoner likely provided them with a lead to the organization. He points out that officially reporting this information would be advantageous for everyone involved. However, simply disregarding a wanted hunter isn't an option, especially not just because a rookie insists on it. Realizing that his line of questioning is leading nowhere, the director shifts tactics, revealing that he has invited a mutual acquaintance, one who is quite eager to have a conversation with Siwoo. His curiosity finally piqued. Siwoo turns his head to face none other than one of his fellow first-generation legendary hunters, the Guildmaster of Fighting Warrior, Du Kangho. At Kangho's residence, the two enjoy a peaceful conversation over a cup of tea, just like the good old times. Uncle Kangho recalls how shocked he was when he first heard the news of our hero's death. Curious, Predator asks who the suspicious old guy acting so familiar with him is. Our hero also notes that the man seems to have aged quite a bit. Laughing at the odd comment, Kangho chuckles and points out that Siwoo is the one who seems frozen in time. The uncle, with a touch of jealousy, mentions how Siwoo hasn't gained a single wrinkle over the past 10 years. He then asks what happened, since even his disciples went through hell yet couldn't track him down. Acting nonchalant, our boy replies they'll need another drink since his story isn't a short one. Hearing his 100-year-long tale, the uncle finds it impressive how much he went through. Our Demon Kingslayer shares his worry that mysterious dimensional magic activated at the very end of the fourth boss's fight. Clearing up the confusion, Kangho reveals that the fourth Demon King is still alive, leaving Siwoo stunned. My guy slams the table, seething with rage that the humans signed the peace treaty despite knowing this. Kangho does his best to calm him, explaining that only the remnants of the Demon Lord's forces remain. After the Demon Slayer ended his reign, the demons on Earth claimed they were merely following orders from their leader in the war against humans. Siwoo grits his teeth, realizing they had used him as a scapegoat. But Kangho calls it a necessary evil, given that human resources had been stretched thin since the first gate appeared. When the demons offered the peace fire, they even promised to share their knowledge on how to seal the gates. It was an irrefutable offer. So the humans exchanged the Demon King's remnants and a lab in the Arctic, where they could safely open a gate. For the people who were unaware of magic and the gates, it was undoubtedly the best choice for progress. As a result, top rankers like Choi Dae-soo from every country took the deal. Since then, the demons have stayed under the radar. He mentions that the first-gen hunters were initially very suspicious, but after Siwoo's disappearance, they scattered. Once everything calmed down, the interest in demons had waned. Kangho has had his doubts about the demons ever since, but what's even more intriguing is the disappearance of the mad dog. After Siwoo vanished, Choi Dae-soo went to great lengths to erase all traces of him, leaving no one beyond the second-gen hunters even aware of our Demon Slayer. What's even stranger is that the uncle couldn't recognize him today, despite having fought alongside him multiple times. Hearing how unnatural the memory loss is, our hero suggests that maybe Dae-soo had the demons' help. Kangho agrees, commenting that Siwoo has long been a pain in both parties' sides. Our hero then wonders aloud what the demons would have to gain from helping such a prideful jerk like Dae-soo erase his existence. Kangho reminds him that the demons have become harder to challenge, since they've even helped humans improve with mana. Siwoo counters, pointing out that these are the same trash who started a war because they believed humans were an inferior race. With that, Kangho suggests that Siwoo meets with his disciples next to get a clearer picture. The problem is that his disciples have scattered across the world. But the uncle responds that although kids are like that, Yohwa is still in Korea. She's now an S rank and the leader of the Azure Flower Guild. Still, Uncle Kangho is disturbed to share that the same redhead who always clung to him like glue now works under Dae-soo. Our hero brushes it off, saying everyone has their reasons. After sharing a good laugh over the pricey yet nasty-tasting liquor, the uncle mentions his little brother. Siwoo replies that his little bro loves the old man, and thanks the samurai uncle for raising Sejun like his own son. Just then, a spy snaps a photo of the two from outside and sends it to his guildmaster. He confirms that he's caught the HMCS privately meeting with the great Kangho. The guildmaster, Yohwa, thanks him and confirms that Siwoo is alive, just as she had expected. Her suspicions had grown after seeing the Empire Guild's unusually chaotic movements. Breathing a sigh of relief, the lady goes weak in the knees, bursting into tears at the sight of the master she had terribly missed. After she started working under Dae-soo, Sejun lost trust in her, but the lady never stopped searching, even when everyone else had given up. Yohwa stares at the master, who hasn't changed a bit, and prepares to meet him immediately. Yet her hope comes crashing down when she hears someone call her name. Dae-soo asks why she's in such a rush. The redhead lady replies that it's nothing special, trying to steady her trembling arm. The creepy man grips her shoulder, pointing out that the cold-hearted woman who wasn't fazed by her mother's death can't possibly be so moved over something trivial. He guesses that he's heard of a certain infamous Min Siwoo's return, and her frozen expression gives it away. The eye patch uncle sighs, watching her rush off to her master like a loyal pet. Patting her head, he clicks his tongue, muttering that she hasn't matured at all. He makes it clear he doesn't plan on letting her go easily, even if she's his last blood relative. She slaps his hand away, reminding him that she never pledged loyalty to him in the first place, and he knows it. He admits that he only let her linger around his guild because she grew into a powerful hunter. Yowa is furious hearing him refer to her as a mere tool. The redhead snaps at her supposed uncle, who abandoned her when she needed him most. Only Siwoo had been there to save her from despair. Daesu shatters her confidence by reminding her that she's a criminal. Given how our hero has been viciously hunting down criminals, once he finds out about her past, her so-called happy reunion won't be as pleasant as she hopes. The creepy uncle advises her not to forget her dirty roots and urges her to wake up from her delusion. The trembling lady is left completely demoralized, standing there utterly speechless. Meanwhile, at the guild, a pair of rookies meet our hero, who has promised to train them firsthand. Jisoo curiously asks if the huffing bear mask and the bald old man are also coming along. Our hero introduces the two seniors, while the wolf boy is suffocating in the bear mask, struggling to hide his identity. The juniors are immediately intimidated by the old man's menacing presence, yet the baldy casually remarks that he'll be relying on the energetic young ones. He offers her words of encouragement to Jisoo as though she's his own granddaughter. Siwoo reminds the troublemaker wolf boy that he's still on probation, warning him not to bully the juniors unless he wants to experience death again. With that, the team sets off toward the F-rank gate owned by the Empire Guild. Jisoo admits she's feeling quite nervous, so our hero tells her to think of the giant portal as just another door. The other recruit, equally hesitant, mentions a rumor that sometimes the gates swallow hunters if they close while the hunters are still inside. The old man reassures them, stating that humans now know exactly how to open and close the gates. He continues, explaining that gates have become a business due to the precious resources monsters inside yield. Cowards won't be rewarded without taking some risks. Once inside the gate, the team finds themselves in a lush forest. The recruits start complaining, leaving our hero wondering if all the kids are this clueless, even after graduating from the Hunter Academy. Bear Boy explains that after completing their studies, recruits are ranked after finishing the tutorial tower, and only gain practical experience once they join a guild. Siwoo expresses his concern, calling the F-rank training little more than a system for mass-producing weaklings. He urges them to demonstrate their skills before they start facing monsters. Sent by Sejun, the pretend recruit feels humiliated, being bossed around by a stranger alongside a girl who can't even use her power properly. Finally charging up her skill, Jisoo is knocked back by the force of her own attack, landing on her butt. Hearing her rampant apologies, our trainer tells her to stop with the apologies and hands her a whip. The recruit looks confused, so he explains that it will help her better control her unique skill. Jisoo tries again, charging up her spell with the whip in hand. Meanwhile, the pretend recruit reports the gang of goblins ambushing them. Sitting at a safe distance, our trainer instructs him to handle it on his own. The guy curses at Siwoo's smug comment that they wouldn't learn anything if he beat the goblins for them. Watching the newbie in action, the baldy is impressed by his flashy tracking skill. However, it's clear that Byunguk's control is abysmal, and he's burning through his mana at an alarming rate. Meanwhile, the recruit is shocked at how fighting a swarm of goblins alone feels like pure punishment for someone at his level. In a panic, he shouts at Jisoo, asking how much longer she'll take. Completely drained of mana, he collapses, and a goblin almost lands a fatal blow. Just in time, Jisoo unleashes her skill, forcing the goblin to submit. With a single command, she makes it back off and copies her movements. Wolf Boy and Baldy are impressed, witnessing a rare domination skill in action. Even Frey, unable to contain his excitement, begs for permission to feast on such a rare sight. However, the mad dog remains unimpressed, remarking that it's quite useless if she can only control a single enemy. Realizing she's in deep trouble, the newbie starts desperately jolting her unconscious partner, while the goblins drool, eyeing the easy prey before them. Siwoo's assistance has helped her unlock a sense of how to use her techniques better, and she's grateful for that. Our boy doesn't even care that she looks like shit, as this is the only kind of mentoring he is willing to offer. Her hair disheveled, she cracks up a smile, stating that she was the foolish one for being overconfident, believing that hunters and awakeners in general were special, and that their value increased in society with their ranks. But now, she was able to catch a hint of the true reality. Skills were tools, and not something a person could define their worth with. That's why training is important. Siwoo agrees, and thinks it's good enough if she's learned something. He's done for today and wants to head back home. The old man suddenly notes that there's a huge crowd spiraling up and wonders if these guys are from another guild. The girl explains that there is negotiation going on between the Azure Flower Guild and another group. A new gate has been discovered after all, so these people are just being dispatched here. Hearing the guild's name, Siwoo draws away for a second. From among the crowd, the people are curious to ask the guild leader about the appearance of the unique gate, as well as the pile of dead bodies of hunters that were discovered inside. The strange thing about this case is that these hunters weren't even torn apart by monsters. Their bodies seemed in one piece on the outside, but their organs had taken all the damage. It made Yoa contemplate what could become the catalyst for such a strange turn of events. Her train of thought is disrupted as a voice draws her over from her shoulder. It's Siwoo, who greets her with confidence, reminding her that her teacher is back. Seeing him here, she shows a different side to herself, mentioning his return. Siwoo wants to speak to her, but she's too busy and has things to deal with. Yowa escapes the situation, while Frey is out here flaming our boy for being the first dude to get rejected at the speed of light. The old man finds her rude for dismissing him like that too. Siwoo confirms that to be the case, but it's not that she was rude just now. In fact, he saw her in a fragile state, as if she was crying, and he doesn't know why. Let's explore their backstory a bit. Siwoo came to see her while she was hiding and crying her eyes out. He doesn't even get what's causing her to be upset. The teacher emphasized that he'll always find her out even if she hides. Turns out, the girl was jealous as hell that Sejun was trained better than her because of his connection to his brother, while she was just a nobody he picked up. She was once starving on the streets, so he collected her just like how Batman collects a new Robin every week. Anyway, Yoa doesn't get why Siwoo has been so nice and considerate of her despite having zero reason to do so. He teases her intently, stating that it's just a choice he made. He'd already been born into a tragic world, and felt that it was right to have a loving family of his own. He even gives Yoa the privilege of being called his real sister all the same. To this, the redhead flushes and continues to put up a petty fight. Siwoo is a little annoyed and wonders if he should make her cry even harder in their next training session. Yoa doesn't want him to adjust the difficulty of the training even further, since he already puts her through the worst every day. Those scenes race inside her head. She recalls never wanting to be the best disciple, but someone who could become his weapon, someone he could rely on. And that's how she ended up catching feelings for him. Tough luck. Yoa could not escape the bubble of being the child of a disgusting criminal. She enjoyed her privileges as a child and thinks that it does not earn her any excuse. That's why Yoa is prepared to do anything to fight for her teacher, for the person who helped restart her life. Yoa pops a surprise visit to meet Sejun, who calls her his sister out of habit and then addresses her properly. The redhead wants him to spare the pleasantries for a moment because she's come here to talk. Let's hop over to a different scene, where Kang-ho is expressing his reasons of distrust to an acquaintance. When the gates first appeared, they had been fighting against demons. It was a barbaric era where powerful awakened warriors did not know what to make of their powers and broke every law. And now, he's seriously annoyed that this guy ended up making deals with the demons themselves. Eyepatch over here quickly realizes that Kang-ho's already encountered Siwoo, which is why he's so alert and suspicious of him right now. He thinks Siwoo's the one who has had his senses tamed, failing his judgment. Of course, this all seems like bullshit coming from President Eyepatch over here. He thinks the same of Kang-ho, claiming that he and the rest have some kind of delusion about him. This man outlines that he doesn't care about the safety or protection of humanity. The three reverences matter nothing to him. The bastard reveals his true nature. He's just a madman who is drunk on power, hoping to achieve complete supremacy. He wants to test and expire the very limits of mana, and where that could lead humanity. His goal is to face an endless amount of strong opponents to help evolve humanity to greater heights. His authority is just a tool that helps him get there. The deals he made were merely because their interests aligned in one place. In the global domain, he confirms that each world leader had already bargained with the demons. On the exterior, it seems like they're forming these deals out of the country's safety, but they have their own agendas. With the current trajectory, humanity will tremendously evolve in the upcoming decade. He mocks Kang-ho for questioning his decisions when it only helped strengthen humanity's side. Kang-ho returns to the important question at hand. He wants to hear it from the man himself, to see if he truly made a deal with the demons and became the one responsible for sending Siwoo away. The president plays it soft, expressing that he's got nothing to hide, and if Siwoo has returned, then he's just gotten himself